Extinction is a game without focus, despite having one of the most immediate and accessible hooks in years. You're a magical fantasy warrior, known as a Sentinel, and your job is to kill giant monsters. Seems simple enough, right? Yet somehow, Extinction manages to both overcomplicate and oversimplify its core mechanics to the point of utter redundancy. It's not without momentary glimpses of something brilliant and fresh, but you'll be hard-pressed to draw those out of an otherwise mediocre action game.
Someone help!
Extinction stars Avil and Xandra, the last survivors of a kingdom who have been trained to fight the evil Reveni. See giant and not-so-giant ogres. They're joined by King Yoram, as they try to save his people from the encroaching hordes. You'll remember them as the one who seriously needs a Valium, the one you want to punch in the face for constantly yapping in your ear and taunting you when you die, often with the same lines repeated ad nauseum, and Richard Ebkar in a game seriously below his credit.
Mama, no, that's too soon. I dispatched a garrison to the city, but they won't arrive in time. If you are as skilled as I have heard, Avil, then please, save as many of my people as you can.
Like Ben Kingsley in Blood Rain levels of just why? Why is he here? Together, they portray something resembling a story, told with the emotional gravitas of The Room. Thankfully, you can skip most of the cliché, dull dialogue outside of a few unskippable moments in the campaign. Those you just have to deal with, unfortunately. Now, the real stars of Extinction are the towering titans you dismember delicately with your decidedly destructive blade. You leap up in the air, time slows down, and you unleash a rune strike upon whatever armor piece or limb of the beast is highlighted. After you've saved enough civilians, killed enough of the smaller grunts, and or chopped off enough limbs of the giants, they regrow them quickly, and you can finally perform a flaming strike to cleave their head off. This moment highlights one of the greatest strengths to Extinction: its animation. While the 2D cutscenes leave something to be desired, the game in motion is simply spectacular. I'd love to see a movie done in this art style, in the hands of these animators. If nothing else, Extinction makes every movement look immensely satisfying. Now if only it played half as well.
You must work quickly, Avil. The Horde is on its way.
Extinction wants desperately to be a fluid, intuitive, engaging action game. Its combo system allows for a hybrid of Arkham Asylum-style brawling and Devil May Cry special moves. There's also an emulation of Sunset Overdrive's platforming, a healthy number of powerful upgrades to unlock, and a variety of sub-objectives to try and spice every mission up. Except, none of these systems work properly. The combo system is made redundant by Rune Strike, which can be used to one-strike standard grunts and takes out most other enemies in 2 to 4 swipes, which is far easier than dodging and attacking while fighting with the game's camera that turns drunk the moment you need to focus on up-close action. It would have been better to just build the entire experience around chaining rune strikes together, as it's far more satisfying than wailing on enemies with health bars far too large given how minimal their strength is supposed to be. It's actually easier to dismember the giants than to punch out a passing goblin. How does that happen? Our focus is supposed to be on the giants. They're the hook, not these C-list extras running around the battlefield. It also would encourage more unique enemy types if they had focused on Rune Strike, rather than slight variations on the regular grunt, with the most divergent being a regular grunt that flies. Yeah. Platforming is a chore because your grappling hook regularly reaches for the wrong vantage points, if there are any. Maps often have huge swaths of terrain where there's no areas to zip to, and there's no mechanic to just manually aim the hook at any ledge, even though there's programming to let you hold down the button and slow down time to aim. It worked so well in the Just Cause series, and it would have worked perfectly here. Bouncing off of fabric roofs and treetops is useless, as they're never connected to the flow of the level, making them more an inconvenience you bump into accidentally. There were moments where I was sent flying by a tree. A sentence I never thought I would say in a review. The entire set of systems are like a song with no rhythm whatsoever, and need to be completely overhauled. It could have worked. This is good material to take reference from, but more often than not, just running to wherever you need is best. One level in particular that heavily relies upon platforming highlights just how floaty and unresponsive the controls are. It also makes you notice that there is a sincere lack of mid-level checkpoints, which, almost every platformer has, which makes these sections really irritating. Even climbing is a chore, as Avil refuses to climb raw terrain in favor of man-made structures. He doesn't want to chip a nail, apparently. This gets even worse with the Reveni, where you'll regularly fight to keep Avil from diving headfirst into their armpits. Or worse, fight to keep him from spontaneously letting go mid-climb for absolutely no reason. It just feels incredibly unpolished for a game of this caliber, and would only be somewhat excusable of a budget title. Your upgrades, meanwhile, are a mixture of interesting, divergent abilities that might be useful, and raw stat increases that are practically necessary, so you'll invest all of your points into the less interesting things. Being able to save civilians 100% faster is so important at times that it begs the question why you start off with the rate being so artificially slow to start with. The answer being, because grinding for more experience points can be only done by replaying missions in the campaign, awkwardly lengthening your playtime. Because yeah, you might be tempted to dive into the game's alternate modes, such as the Daily Challenge, as well as Skirmish and Extinction. Except, here's the catch. While they boast impressive auto-generation tech, all the problems in the scripted levels are exacerbated regardless because there's even less effort put in. It's all randomly generated by the computer, save for the blissful absence of anyone chewing your ear off. It is impressive that Skirmish allows you to just randomly put in a number and you'll get a different encounter, and Extinction offering that but with one life to live. Hardcore fans of this game, you'll probably love this. Everyone else is probably going to play it once and then never look back. It just doesn't amount to anything. These modes could have offered some in-game reward, taken a little bit of the bite out of the grind, and then there would have been a reason to invest in them. There would have been a reason to play them. Instead, you have a scoreboard. That's it. A scoreboard. And finally, those sub-objectives? There's no clear reward for them other than getting additional stars, and they're often for doing things that you'd have done anyway. So, like the brawling, they're completely redundant. Actually, one quick note before we round this review off. Extinction is terrible at teaching you what you need to know. Using rune strikes on enemies? I found that out accidentally. Worse yet, I didn't even know you had a glide move until I poked around in the upgrade system and read the text for upgrades that the game starts you off with by default. However, your allies will harass you endlessly if you let a single civilian die or if a building is crushed.
Avil, you must protect the city and its people. Destroying the city! Avil, you...
What are you doing? You're a
Reveni forces are destroying...
More civilians are dying.
Avil, what are you...
But genuinely educating you on important things that the game doesn't immediately communicate to you? Nope, they don't have any time for that.
We were told that our world once had heroes. Fairy tales to inspire hope in a world with none.
Extinction's sole salvation is found in its menacingly monstrous titans. There's a variety of them, with different armor sets that encourage unique approaches, but even here there's problems. Some armor, like the invulnerable Bright Steel and the hard-to-crack Bone Armor, feel more like a punishment than a tactical challenge. These armor sets aren't prominent at first, but become more frequent with time, and are far less interesting modifiers than Reveni with weapons or the armor pieces with multiple weak points. Most infuriatingly, the invulnerable and nigh-invulnerable armor sets often cover a Reveni's legs, which are critical as lopping off a single leg makes it vastly easier to ascend each monstrosity. This is all systemic of the real core issue though. Extinction doesn't really seem to know what to do with all of these systems it presents you with. It has all of these ideas, and a lot of them are good ideas, and a box art dwarfing enemy to fight that is really tempting to fight, yet there's no real cohesion. The act of defeating the Reveni is only unique for a handful of hours before even slicing their heads off becomes predictable. For all the content jammed into this game, from the campaign to additional modes, there's nothing to really hold your interest. The actions to charge your blade are incredibly repetitive and associated with irritating dialogue whether you succeed or fail, with a story that falls flat on its face. The act of fighting the Reveni runs out of steam well before the campaign's conclusion. This sort of game hurts to review, because I can absolutely see the potential. Extinction is a product that its developers clearly loved. This isn't something that was just carted out, this was something that somebody cares about. But it did not come together. I really hope Iron Galaxy tries to address these issues, because they've got a promising start. For all of its problems, Extinction could become a great game, but it's going to need a lot of work. For now though, I can't recommend Extinction. It's a waste of good intentions and ambitious ideas in an unbalanced, unfocused mess. It's for all these reasons that Extinction gets a 4 out of 10.